Welcome back. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that feels, well, pretty futuristic, but it's actually happening right now. We're talking advanced air mobility, AAM, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft eVTOLs. Zipping people, cargo across cities, it's really starting to take shape. And our guide for this deep dive, it's the full session guide from a major event, the Advanced Air Mobility Asia Symposium 2025. This thing is basically a roadmap for the near future of AAM. So our mission today is simple. Pull out the absolute key insights, maybe some surprising facts from this guide, give you a clear picture of where AAM is going, especially in Asia. Because, while this tech is global, one region seems to be really pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely. And maybe the biggest takeaway right off the bat from this guide isn't just that Asia will be the largest AAM market. It's the why. It's not simply population. It's this perfect storm, really.
Yeah.
Rapid urbanization, governments actively leapfrogging old infrastructure hurdles, and just this cultural readiness for new tech. So the quick version, Asia isn't just adopting AAM, it feels like it's actively shaping it globally, kind of setting the pace. We'll definitely dig into the timing, the growth, the opportunities, and the big challenges there over the next few decades.
Okay, let's unpack that. Asia leading the charge. You mentioned urbanization and government support. Is it really just that, or is there more to why it's the place to watch?
It's definitely a mix of factors. The symposium guide really highlights how Asia's incredibly dense cities, often paired with, let's be honest, challenging ground transport, create this huge need. You've got economies growing fast, eager for innovation, and crucially, governments aren't just open to it, they're actively promoting the industry.
Actively promoting. How so?
Through dedicated initiatives, funding, setting up test zones, that sort of thing. It's this combination, the need, the willingness to innovate, and that proactive regulatory push that acts as a massive accelerator. That's really what positions Asia to become the biggest AAM market, projected to blow past the US and Europe in terms of scale.
Right, the scale is huge. But, okay, all these vehicles flying around, here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit tricky. How do we make sure they can fly safely and, across borders?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Regulation and airspace integration are absolutely fundamental. The guide puts a lot of emphasis on harmonization between regulators.
Yeah.
It describes this big global effort, key Asian regulators working alongside ES in Europe and the FAA in the US.
Harmonization, meaning everyone agrees on the same rules. Essentially, yes. Working towards standardizing how these AAM vehicles are certified and how operations will work globally. This is huge for the manufacturers, the OEMs building the aircraft. They want to sell their eVTOLs everywhere without massive changes for each country, right? Cuts in complexity, cuts down cost.
Okay, that makes sense for the big picture. But what about flying within a city or region?
Right, that's the airspace integration piece. The guide points to Unmanned Aircraft System Traffic Management, UTM, as being absolutely key. UTM is basically the system that will manage all this low-altitude traffic. It's seen as the path towards eventually having fully autonomous AAM operations. Experts like Jia Xu from SkyGrid, mentioned in the guide, are talking about how companies are testing UTM now, planning these phased rollouts to handle the growth everyone expects.
Harmonization sounds great on paper, but you've got different countries, different priorities. How realistic is it to get everyone on the same page? Are they hitting roadblocks? That's a really sharp point. The goal is harmonization, minimal changes. But the symposium guide doesn't pretend it's easy. Think about standardizing air traffic control for these things, or even just how data gets shared across borders. That takes serious coordination, both technical and diplomatic.
Yeah.
But the guide also suggests there's a powerful shared incentive. A fragmented market doesn't help anyone. Not the manufacturers, not the operators, not the countries wanting the economic benefits. So while there are definitely challenges, the potential economic upside is a huge motivator to find common ground.
Okay, so the framework is being built. Let's talk about the actual companies. Who are the big names putting these futuristic vehicles in the sky? Are these new startups or established players?
It's really a mix. We're seeing major global OEMs getting serious, people like Joby Aviation, Archer, and also strong regional players like SkyDrive in Japan. They're all actively prepping for the Asian market. The symposium sessions apparently go into their progress, their timelines. Some are talking about starting initial services pretty soon, like 2025, 2026.
Wow, that's soon.
Yeah, it's moving fast. But it's not just building them, it's flying them. The guide mentions a whole panel of operators companies from Japan, Korea, India, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand. These are the guys figuring out the actual day-to-day. They're planning for entry into services IS, developing business cases, figuring out what they'll use AAM for first.
Like what kind of uses? Passenger taxis?
That's definitely one, but also cargo, critical logistics, maybe even emergency medical transport. It really depends on the specific market and needs.
Okay, planes in the air, operators ready to go. But what does this all mean for the infrastructure below? These things need somewhere to take off and land, right? And power.
Absolutely crucial. The guide breaks down several layers of ground support. First up, power. There's mention of power grid operators, particularly in Japan, but also across Asia, wrestling with this. How do you prepare the national grid for potentially thousands of electric aircraft needing fast charging? It's a huge energy demand.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the grid load.
Exactly. Then you have the vertiports. These are the landing pads, the terminals. The guide talks about infrastructure experts, moderated by Carlo Terzi from Urban Day, for example, figuring out how to deploy these and how to integrate them into Asia's cities, which are often incredibly crowded already.
You can't just put them on any rooftop, I guess.
Pretty much. It's a massive planning challenge. You need networks of these skyports without totally disrupting the urban fabric.
What else is needed on the ground?
Digital infrastructure. That UTM system we talked about, it relies heavily on super reliable digital communication. Needs new spectrum, existing spectrum. The guide notes aerospace is looking to learn from other industries here. And then the supply chain. This is huge. Suppliers in Asia and globally are gearing up. The guide uses this phrase, preparing for a scale not seen in aerospace in almost a century.
Wow. A century.
Yeah, it suggests a massive industrial shift. Investment, new skills, new factories, potentially reshaping manufacturing beyond just aerospace. And finally, maintenance. MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Even though AAM aims for a lower maintenance cost than traditional planes, you still need it. The Asian MRO sector is getting ready for these new types of vehicles.
It's such a complex ecosystem. So zooming in a bit, how are different parts of Asia tackling this? Is everyone doing the same thing, or are there unique approaches?
Definitely seen different strategies tailored to local needs and strengths. Japan, for instance, is heavily focused on the Osaka Expo in 2025 as a major showcase. You've got figures like Makoto Iguchi from the Japan Civil Aviation Bureau and Tomohiro Fukuzawa from SkyDrive really pushing that, plus strong government support across different prefectures.
Okay, Japan's using the Expo. What about elsewhere?
Korea has its KUAM Grand Challenge, which is this big government-led initiative to fast-track urban air mobility testing and development. China's introduced this concept of the low-altitude economy. It's broader than just AAM, integrating drones and other low-altitude flight, but AAM is a key part. They're moving fast on domestic deployment and getting multiple local OEMs certified.
And the others? India, Indonesia, Australia?
Yeah, the guide indicates they're all active too. Each has its own set of players, government agencies, local and international OEMs, infrastructure companies working through the specific challenges and opportunities in their regions, like geography or existing aviation rules. It's really a patchwork, but everyone's moving forward.
Beyond the geography, what about the supporting tech? Anything surprising there?
Well, weather is always critical in aviation, but maybe even more so for AM. These are often shorter flights, more sensitive to very localized conditions. So there's a focus on micro-weather forecasting. Experts like Junichi Furumoto from Metro Weather and Don Birchoff from True Weather are highlighted, working on getting that super granular weather data needed for safe ops.
Micro-weather.
Okay, then propulsion. Batteries are great, but they have range limits, right?
Yeah.
Especially for potentially larger aircraft or longer routes needed in some parts of Asia. So there's serious talk about hybrid powertrains. Combining batteries with maybe a small turbine, it gives designers more flexibility for bigger, more capable aircraft.
And looking further out?
Hydrogen. Definitely seen as the potential long-term net zero solution, especially for larger AM vehicles or longer ranges. Asia is actively looking into hydrogen, including the infrastructure needed, which is, a whole separate challenge. And maybe the most unexpected angle in the guide, military applications.
Military? How would that work?
Well, think beyond just troop transport. Imagine rapid logistics to the front line, quick deployment of small units or critical gear, maybe even reconnaissance uses. The guide suggests defense sectors, like Japan's self-defense forces, mentioned as an example, are seriously looking at how AM could integrate with, even augment, their existing capabilities. It shows just how versatile this tech might be.
That is surprising. It really broadens the scope. Wow. Okay, what an incredible overview this guide provides. We've touched on, well, everything from the rules of the sky, the ground infrastructure, the actual aircraft, the operators. It's just so clear how comprehensive the push is, particularly across Asia.
It really is. And that combination, we talked about the tech advancing, strong government backing, and just this massive potential market demand. It really does make Asia the place where AAM is happening fastest and arguably biggest right now.
Yeah.
The symposium seems to cover that whole ecosystem, soup to nuts. It gives you that complete picture of the journey they're on.
Absolutely. So thinking about all this, the speed, the scale, especially in Asia, it leaves you wondering, what parts of this new way of moving do you, our listener, think will actually change daily life the most? And maybe more interestingly, what challenges are lurking out there that we haven't even really thought about yet? Something to ponder.